time to service the Honda Talon. Today we're going to change out the engine oil filter, DCT filter, as well as the front and rear gear oil. Let's start by warming up the machine so the oil comes out easier. Idling for about 5 minutes should do the trick. Go ahead and remove the rear cover. This is where we'll be filling the oil from. Remove the oil cap. Just go ahead and set it on there loosely for now. Go ahead and climb underneath the machine and you can clearly see where your drains are marked. So this here is going to be your sub transmission oil. We're not going to touch that today. Further back on the machine, keep going back, you'll see engine oil. And right there is where we'll go ahead and start draining all the oil out. Here you can see the secondary oil drain bolt. This will be removed with a 12mm. Once your drain pan is in position, use a 17mm ratchet to remove the drain bolt and start draining the oil out. Here's all the supplies we're going to need to get this job done. We purchased a kit from Edwards. It comes with everything we need here. We've got the oil, filters, crush washers, O-rings. They even include a disposable funnel with some gloves. We did purchase separately a quart of gear oil for the front and rear gears. Let's get both of these crush washers replaced with new ones. And by now the oil is done draining, so we'll go ahead and put these back. Both oil drain bolts need to be torqued to 21 foot-pounds. Here at the rear of the engine are where your filters are located. You've got your small DCT filter on the bottom and your larger engine oil filter on the top. We'll go ahead and remove these with a 10mm ratchet. Covers off, then remove the filters. The DCT filter can be a little tough to pull out, so you can use some snap ring pliers or a pair of needle nose to pull it right on out. After that, use a paper towel to wipe it out. Let's grab our replacement filters and O-rings and we'll go ahead and start the reassembly. Get some oil on your rubber glove and go ahead and lubricate the rubber portion of the filters. And then we'll go ahead and replace them into the machine. The rubber side goes in. Next, we'll go ahead and apply the springs. Now we can go ahead and replace the O-rings. Use a flathead screwdriver to pop them out. Put our new O-rings in place. We're going to want to use some of that oil as well to lubricate these new O-rings. We're going to replace both covers, making sure that the springs are in place, the rubber side of the filter is facing in, and then we'll go ahead and torque these down to 9 foot-pounds. The cover should snap into place nicely. If it doesn't, that means your spring is not lined up properly. So double check that before you force it into place. So at this point we've got the drain bolts reattached and torqued down to 21 foot-pounds. We've got the new filters in place. Now we will go ahead and put our paper funnel in place and start filling oil. The Honda Talon calls for a little over 6 quarts, so we'll go ahead and pour in some oil and then check the dipstick. Make sure to clean around your dipstick before you remove it. You don't want sand or other debris falling down into the engine. Remove the dipstick and wipe it off. Go straight back down. Do not rotate, and then pull it back out. You want the oil to be right between the two pegs. Once your oil is topped off, go ahead and replace the rear cover. And then that's that for changing the engine oil. Now we'll go ahead and move on to changing the front and rear gears. Now we're going to get started on the rear final drive, or differential. Everything's going to be on the passenger side, so at the very top here is where your drain plug is. This is a 17 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and loosen this first, make sure there's no issues with it so we can add in more fluid. There's 2 screws here on the passenger side, 1 and 2. Both of those need to come out. We'll go ahead and remove the drain bolts. These use a 10 millimeter ratchet. The final drive is now empty, so we will go ahead and replace the bottom drain plug and snug it up to 9 foot-pounds. The fill procedure on this rear final drive is to fill through the upper fill hole with the bottom drain plug in place, and then once it starts dripping from the upper drain plug, that tells you that it's full. So at that point we would replace the upper drain plug. Use a funnel and pour through the fill hole. It's going to be a little bit less than 4 ounces, so pour a little at a time. It does not take much. We can see oil dripping out of the upper drain hole, so that tells us that the rear final drive is full. We'll go ahead and replace that upper drain bolt and then replace the fill hole cover, and we'll be done back here. Changing the front gear oil is a very similar process, but there is a little bit of a difference. So if we'll go ahead and start by removing this fill cover right here on the driver's side this time. Use a 17 millimeter ratchet, same as the back. The drain plug is right here in the middle. We'll use a 10 millimeter to remove that, and we'll drain all the oil out. These differentials use pretty thick oil, so it's best to let this drain for about 10 minutes, get most of it out of there. Once the oil is completely drained from the bottom, replace that bottom drain bolt, and then we'll fill through this side fill hole. Similar to the rear, you'll know when it's full when it starts pouring out, except for there isn't a secondary drain bolt. It'll just start dripping out of this fill hole. You can see here the oil is filled right to the bottom of the fill hole and is dripping out a bit. That is perfectly filled. Once that's done, we'll go ahead and put the fill plug back in place, tighten it up, torque it down to 9 foot-pounds, and the job is done.